Hi, it's Matt Potratz, back with you again this week. In various counseling sessions over the past few years, I've peeled back the different layers of my identity. And it's been interesting how it required going back to my childhood and cultivating up some different experiences I had that made me who I am today. I used to suggest that we were born with an identity, and nothing can change who you truly are. But the more I begin to understand identity and see the course of my own life and other people's lives fold out, I'm changing my stance. I believe identity is developed. We're born innocent and know nothing of who we are. The home and family environment we're in soon begin to shape how and who we discover ourselves to be. When I was a teenage boy, a gentleman who knew my grandpa well once told me, "It's no surprise you've got good work ethic. Your last name is Potratz," referring to my grandpa, Kurt Potratz, who no doubt had incredible work ethic. And a strong work ethic is definitely an element of my identity. However, I think we'd all agree that just having the last name Potratz didn't give me that character trait. It wasn't that I just had a great gene pool in my family line. My work ethic is what it is because my grandpa displayed it, my dad displayed it, and my siblings and I were taught that if we wanted to live a well-balanced life, that hard work was part of that. I guess you could say that if you want it, work for it, was our family philosophy. Anthony Robbins once said, "Your philosophy of life shapes you more than anything else." And if we can be shaped, as he suggests, that means that who we are, our identity, is shaped by the environment and lifestyle we're raised in. It's not a constant. It changes based on our exposure to different elements of the world we live in. Part of Merriam-Webster's definition of identity is the distinguishing character or personality of an individual, opening the door to an argument that nothing can change our personality and true character. It's ingrained in us, so therefore nothing can change our true identity. But I disagree. If someone was describing my personality, they'd most likely tell you I have a good sense of humor, that I'm funny. And I would have to agree. I love to joke around, and I always say I want to be sure to laugh my way through life. And sure, that's partially from my genetic makeup, but it's also because I lived in a safe, healthy, fun home with two awesome parents who encouraged me to be me, to be silly, to laugh, to joke, and to love life. That atmosphere helped to develop that part of my identity. That made me who I am. Even with that exact genetic makeup, had I been in a hostile environment, full of fear, turmoil, and grief, that funny, silly little boy would have been suppressed and not allowed to develop into the person I am today. Now, could that funny Matt still be brought out of me in manhood? Sure it could. With some healing and release to let that funny personality out, that man could still become the person he was supposed to be. But it still confirms that our identities are shaped by the world around us. Part of the reason it's shaped is because what we call our true identity is actually made up of multiple identities. For example, we use the terminology changing hats when we switch roles in life. But have you ever considered that that is really actually changing identities? In one day, we could potentially wear multiple hats and therefore take on multiple identities. For example, I might start my day out at 7 a.m. coffee as a pastor, either meeting to encourage someone or to plan a church activity. Then from there, let's say it's a week that I'm on rotation as chaplain at the local hospital. So although similar, I take on a new identity with new duties, new expectations, guidelines, and a new role to fill. And let's add a little more and say it's one of those crazy days when I got a phone call sometime that morning stating that one of the teachers at the elementary school had a family emergency and they need me to substitute teach for the second half of the day, which has actually happened. So I finish up my rounds at the hospital and head for the school to take on another new identity in the classroom. This seat is much different from my two morning seats in that, first of all, religion and school don't mesh. So I have to lay down my identity as a pastor, just be Matt, and pick up my identity as a teacher with a lesson plan to execute and students to guide and instruct. School gets out at 3:30 and it's up the stairs to the soccer field where my own young boys have a soccer practice or a game. My identity is now that of a father, and the 3 previous identities I had taken on during that day are put to rest. After soccer, it's home for dinner, showers, and bedtime. And if I was married, as many of you are, I would take on another new identity as husband. So you see, our quote-unquote identity is constructed of many different mini-identities that we take on throughout our days and our lives. And in the midst of all those roles, we view ourselves to be a certain person, an individual that stands out different from any other human on earth, because there's only one you. And we will act according to our views of who we truly are, whether those views are accurate or not. And our view of ourselves can also change with seasons and circumstances. Sometimes you may find yourself as the fully motivated and optimistic person, and at other times you may find yourself to be that broken person who barely has motivation to make it through the day. So the big question is, how do you find your true self? Here's what I've discovered. Your true self is the person you are most passionate about. Your true self is the identity that makes you smile when you remember it and makes you feel happy, fulfills you. Of all the identities we take on, the ones that bring us the most joy are what truly define who we are, our true identity. And because we know the feeling that it gives us and the fulfillment that it brings, we have desire to be that person, and we hold tight to who we are. When you drip a drop of water into a puddle, it ripples out and loses its identity. It's no longer a drop of water. Many people are just like that in life. They get dropped into this crazy world we live in and ripple out, getting lost in the crowd. They no longer stand out as the unique drop they once were. Friend, don't ripple out. Hang on to the different identities in life that make you happy, bring you fulfillment, and that you're most passionate about. That will give you your true identity, and no one can take that from you. The glue of my identity is to never forget how God views me. He calls me son, and He is a king. Therefore, that makes me royalty, and not even death can take that away from me, because that identity still exists in heaven.